Saving seeds helps us maintain genetic diversity, and we can enjoy a culinary adventure along the way. These are some of the steps we can take to act locally. We can encourage locally adapted foods by conserving the genes of annual plants and propagating those that do well in our area. We can also select the best tasting varieties. In the conventional system, the seed selector influences what the farmer will grow, and then the produce goes to market, and then the cook and the diner are parts of the chain, but certainly the waste does not go back to the garden. The home has a very short, close plot-to-plate cycle. We plant, tend, harvest, share, cook, taste it, and then select the seeds from the best tasting plants, save the seeds, and the next year plant again. Vilda Figueira in Cuba with her husband Jose Lama dedicated their life to re-educating people about what could grow in Cuba. Because for 600 years, the Cubans have been eating white bread, and yet they can't grow wheat. So here's the challenge. We can ask the soil and the environment to keep growing what we like to eat, or we could change what we eat to suit the site. If you want big bang for your buck, you want a lot of yield for a minimum effort, then spend that effort on annual plants. But if you want a sustainable system, if you want a food forest, then start looking at perennial plants. The big difference between annual and perennial is that the annuals spend some of their energy, some of your energy, building up a structure. That structure sustains the plant through the off-season, through winter. So their yield is two parts, part for you in edible fruits and part for them in sustaining their life. Let's spend a moment trying to think like a plant. What are the goals of the plant? A perennial plant needs to work towards a long-term survival. It's going to spend less energy on reproduction in those early years because it needs to grow. It is slower to grow because it's spending time on its structure. But the extra yields of a perennial plant can be harvested for people, such as timber, shade, and habitat for wildlife. They do need to be managed. After 10 years or so, you will need to be able to cut the trees. On the other hand, annual plants have got a short-term survival plan. They only need to last a couple of months, and they can die off in winter. They're quick and they're lightweight in their structure, so they're a little bit easier to handle. They've got a higher reproduction drive. They really want to pump out seeds. They have a greater edible yield for humans because most of what they grow we can eat. The leaves, the roots, the seeds. They do need to be managed yearly, but the management is usually less heavy lifting. So that management involves preparation of the soil, the seed selection, keeping records, planting it, protecting it, watering it, weeding and pruning. The sad thing is, if you skip a year because of a drought, then you can lose that genetic material. Generally speaking, perennial plants will outcompete annuals because they're stronger. So whilst you can have annuals early in the system, the perennials will live on. In a food forest, you design so that there's some open areas to continue to grow annual plants. Annual plants optimize the use of energy. They get in there, they use the sun and water, and they grow quickly. So they give you a useful yield quickly. In this example from our site in Mount Kembla, New South Wales, Australia, we converted a paddock, actually a kikuyu weed, into annual gardens and then into perennial food forest. That gave the site much more drought resilience and a varied microclimate. In the early years, we grew sorghum, which was a great fodder for the chickens, tomato and lettuce and silver beet and parsley and other herbs for us. The young trees that we had planted hidden amongst the herbs then started to grow taller and shade out the annual plants. Here you can see there's some parsley still growing on the edge. And then eventually that whole lower area became shaded out, but a good refuge for the chickens. And the main trees now are avocado, mango, tamarillo, which is biennial, and grapevine and kiwi fruit grow in amongst the trees. So if you're going to start saving seed, concentrate on the common plants as you build your skills, and then move into some uncommon plants for a bit of a culinary adventure. Traditional culinary knowledge is being lost on those uncommon plants, so it'd be great to seek out people who can help you there. Start small. Focus on the plants that you really love. I really love kengkong, such a delicious green. and so I'm happy to spend time and energy learning how to grow that in my climate. You will find some new foods grow really well in your climate, maybe even better than the common foods that you once grew. But the new foods require research. They require some deeper understanding. You will be pioneering this. You can pioneer new foods for your area. The easiest way to do this is to save the first fruit and the best looking fruit. Don't eat that seed. Save it for the next season. Talk to your neighbours, especially older gardeners, to find out what grows really well in your climate and to try to find some old varieties. Try to find some out-of-climate varieties, so foods that grow in warmer areas or cooler areas, and that will build the biodiversity of the food plants that you're growing. And then have a look around at some multicultural foods. You might be surprised. We know we are living through a period of rapid climate change. The best way to help humanity and to help the food plants to adapt is to diversify and gather cultural knowledge. There are heritage varieties of nearly every food that you know. And the forgotten foods include bitter lettuce or Monstra deliciosa fruits. And there are also native foods. These include indigenous nuts and grasses. Saving rare varieties requires a lot of responsibility, especially in record keeping and isolating the different strains. On the plus side, we know that this conservation will help maintain genetic diversity. That's key to adaptation. What are your plans for yourself and for your garden's future? In the course notes, you'll find some useful resources and methods for saving seed.